Here's the very latest in terms of the numbers coming in from Europe. The death toll from the new coronavirus has passed 5,000 in Europe overnight. The new epicenter of the pandemic, as both Germany and Spain reported a steep rise in infections, but the worst still by far is Italy, where the toll from the coronavirus outbreak in Italy has now risen in the last 24 hours to more than 3,400 people, overtaking the total number of deaths so far registered in China. Joining us now, writer, broadcaster, former member of parliament, George Galloway. George, is the feeling in Europe that the situation at this point can't get any worse?
Well, I think Italy has been overwhelmed. 670 new deaths last day, 24 hours, 670 dead, and mainly in a very small part of Italy, Rick. So the devastation is multiplied. The area of Lombardy literally overwhelmed, coffins moving through the streets for incineration, no proper burial possible given the scale of it. It's almost biblical, this whole situation in Italy. Spain is catching up fast, though. France also catching up, not quite as fast. Britain beginning to accelerate. And there's this feeling of apocalypse, which has descended upon European public and political opinion. The British government is stepping up to the mark every day. Another enormous bonanza of state expenditure announced this afternoon by a very impressive Chancellor of the Exchequer. Mark my words, he'll be Prime Minister before very long. 80% of working people's wages in Britain is going to be paid by the state. Britain was effectively nationalised this afternoon. But poor Italy seems powerless to stop this flow, this tsunami of misery and death and destruction.
It looks, doesn't it, like, George, Italy, unfortunately, maybe through no fault of their own, has become the model of what happens when you don't enact policies quickly enough. Two things that can stop this thing. A, enough testing, and B, social distancing, keeping people separate from each other. They didn't do enough of either of those at the very outset of this, at least in Lombardy, correct? Which is really the epicenter of this thing.
Yes, and Italy's northern population is the oldest in Europe, one of the oldest in the world. They live long. They're very tactile people. They kiss. Everyone kisses, not once, twice, but 4 times. They hug, they eat out, they congregate a lot. It's also a poor country, Rick, which many people haven't quite cottoned on to. Italy has become a poor part of Europe, with political instability, no strong state, no stable government, all the factors that lead to it's basically the perfect storm for such a catastrophe as this to cut a swathe through them.
And they're talking now about martial law, and they're talking about maybe using the military just to really not in a castigatory way, but really just to kind of enforce compliance, I think, right? Which, you know, does that make sense to you?
It does. This is a war. The enemy is unseen. We can't touch it. But it's there, it's everywhere now, and we have to treat it like a war. We have to mobilize as we did in the Second World War, mobilize men and women and resources ruthlessly to save us from this. And the Italian population going to have to start doing what the state tells them to do. They haven't been up to now.
Yeah, thoughts are with them, I'll tell you. George Galloway, as usual, thank you so much. And thank you so much for being with us this entire week. Hope to see you again soon.